Friday night, the eyes of the sports world were upon AT&T Stadium yet again. Less than 72 hours later, this venue bookends the weekend with a real Lone Star slugfest. Bragging rights and season expectations are on the line between the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys on the Monday Night Football stage. 7:15 start time on ESPN. Welcome into Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans, Nick Eatman, Nicole Hutchison, and a slew of special guests are slated to join us here over the next hour. We are excited about this one. It's always different after a longer week. Yeah. Cowboys last Sunday at AT&T Stadium, it wasn't perfect, 34-6 against the Philadelphia Eagles. But it's also a little different whenever you've got a team in state, the Houston Texans, who have never won on the road against the Cowboys, trying to take you down today.
Yeah, this is Monday night, Kyle. This is prime time right now, and it was my favorite game when I was playing in the National Football League was Mondays. You're the only thing on TV. You know your family's checking you out. So to me, this is a game that if you have to get motivated for this, you're in the wrong sport. I mean, this is going to be a big-time contest between the Texans and the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm looking forward to see what the Cowboys can put on display today.
Man, it's the Battle of Texas, fellas.
Yes, sir.
You need to get hyped up for this.
Yes,
Listen, you know that you're coming in this building to take care of business. They are trying to dethrone you. They're coming in your crib. They're in your state, and you got to hold it down. Listen, if you say opportunity to get back on the road, these guys have been playing well. You have not been playing well. So now all of a sudden, what is this in front of you? It's an opportunity. Go out there and seize the opportunity and make sure that you're rooted, as Coach McCarthy would say.
We are the elder statesmen. We are the Dallas Cowboys. We own these Texans. And at the end of this night, we will continue to own these Texans.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Look at here. Same hat. Yeah, but hey, different style of ride.
That's the thing is you can't commit the cardinal sin on the first opening statement.
God.
Nate, what are we doing?
I've been a Cowboy all my heart, man, all my life, but I almost blew it.
Almost did, but you didn't.
Yeah.
That's the case. You didn't. You hit the pause button. Cowboys would love to hit the pause button and figure some things out on the offensive side of the football. These numbers just haven't been good for Dallas. Worst offensive production since each of these years on the right-hand side. Points per game, 2015. Total yards, 2,002. And this is coming off of a matchup where you had less than 150 total yards, less than 50 yards passing from your starting quarterback, and he played the majority of the game as well. Isaiah, I'll start with you. On the offensive side of the football tonight against Houston, how much hope do they have?
I don't want to rest anything on hope, Kyle. I want them to come out and establish themselves as their offense, what we've known them to be. And that is a team that can run the ball somewhat effectively, and they can go ahead and get some play action passes. Now, whether that comes in the form of Cooper Rush, whether that comes in the form of Trey Lance, Will Cutton, that obviously we have to wait and see. But I need Coach McCarthy to get in his bag. Get in his bag at this point in time and throw all your toys out on the floor and see what works, because right now you don't really have an identity.
I think Cooper Rush was a little rusty last week. He had no continuity with his wide receivers. Another week of working with his wide receivers and doing what he had to do. I think he'll come out and be a better showing this week.
Yeah, to me, what McCarthy had to do leading up to this matchup was figure out exactly what Cooper Rush does great, what are his weaknesses. This is not the same go-around when Cooper Rush took over the team a couple years ago. That offensive line was playing phenomenal. He had a balanced attack with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, and the wide receivers were out there balling. This is not that matchup, so they have to figure out exactly what he does great. I'm talking about Cooper Rush, and figure out that game plan. Taylor, make a game plan exactly to him. Get the ball out of this man's hands fast, because you got some edge rushers for Houston that can get after you quick. Get the ball to your playmakers in space and let them do damage.
And that's going to be the case for whether it's Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, a quarterback. We're going to have to figure out, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on as well. We're going to figure out what the quarterback situation could look like and who's going to give you the better chance to win. But a lot of this is on Mike McCarthy as well as a play caller. Of course, second year as a play caller, fifth year as a head coach. How much pressure is on him tonight, Barry, to find some level of life? Even if it's not overly productive, you got to find some life.
The pressure's on Mike, and I think he understands that as well. I mean, when you talk about this offense, he's taking over the play calling duties. This is a guy that when last year we were talking about this team, it was one of the best offenses in the National Football League. This year going around, not so great out in the open field. When you get to the red zone, it's been even worse, and his fingerprints are all over this. So to me, Mike McCarthy has got to figure out once again how to get this offense rolling. This balance that we saw last season is no longer in existence right now, but you got to continue to fight. You got to show fight, and that's exactly what I want to see from this team. I want them to be a part of this game in the competitive phase of this game, not just when things are out of hand and then you see the offense come together. So for me, I got to see this as a complete game for the offense, and hopefully that's what we see from the Dallas Cowboys tonight.
Don't play it safe, Coach McCarthy. Go out there and let it hang. Just let everything out the bag, like I mentioned earlier. You're a very capable coordinator. You're a very capable play caller. You've been successful your entire career, okay? You've been playing football and calling plays since the beginning of time. Go out there and do what you know, right? You're going against a really good defense. You're going against a really good defensive coordinator. These guys are going to come after you. They're going to try to rattle you. So while they're trying to be aggressive, go ahead and take your shots and just let the guys go out there and make some plays for you.
You know, Rico Dotto, you said it was your guy. You stated that this past week.
Yeah.
Make him your guy. Let him run the ball, throw the ball to him out of the backfield. Try to get something going real quick, get everybody in rhythm. And like Isaiah said, Coach, let it all hang out.
I like it. I think that I'm not going to repeat what you guys have said twice already, but whenever it comes to Mike McCarthy, it is all on the line, and he knows this. He understands the pressure that's at hand. Here's what he had to say early in the week. Nate alluded to it about trying to get this offense back on track.
You know, frankly, I think it's harder when you win. Handling success, to me, has always been the biggest challenge in this. We have a great opportunity to be in an adverse situation as a group of men to go do something people don't think we can do. And been there before, excited about it. You know, most of the times come out the other end, and that's what I'm focused on. So, but to get there, you got to, you know, utilization of energy and all that application of how we want to unite and continue to work is important. So, I think all these guys, you know, we all need to focus on our mental space, take care of ourselves, you know, hug our families, because they're the ones that have to listen to most of this stuff. But we need to just keep about football, because if we're not working on football, our opponent is an hour or two better than us already. So that's my message.
Coach McCarthy, of course, under a bit of pressure tonight. The Cowboys cheerleaders out at the Miller Lighthouse doing their thing as we welcome in Nick Eatman doing his thing on the sidelines. We're normally the ones talking to you from the studio. It's always nice having you back in the building and getting to sit next to you this time around. But, Nick, we're not going to have Jordan Lewis in the building tonight. How big of a loss is that for the Cowboys?
The hits just keep coming at cornerback, and so, yeah, it's certainly going to be a big blow for the Cowboys losing a veteran like him. He can play in the slot. He's got that dog in him that everybody talks about that you really need. This defense has kind of been lacking. He's one of those few guys, so big loss there. To have Josh Butler coming up here, and, I mean, welcome to the NFL. I know he's played a couple of games, but a big-time moment for him. So, obviously, the cornerback position just been one that just, one after another, waiting on Deron Bland, but yet now it's got to be Butler's chance.
All right, I'm going to switch things over to the offensive side of the football here. CeeDee Lamb, he's a dog. We understand what he brings to the table. But outside of CeeDee Lamb, which one of these second-tier options has got to step up in order for this offense to be productive?
All of them. I mean, they all do. I want just one. But, no, I mean, you make a good point. We've been waiting on Jalen Tolbert to kind of take that leap. He's done it. Ferguson, I think from that standpoint, I'd like to see Turpin down the field a little bit more, just use that speed. He's got to catch the ball, too. It's not just him. But all of them just to complement CD a little bit more. But I think it's key that they have to score first. The Cowboys, I think if they score the first touchdown in the game, I think they can win. But they've got to get some confidence. They've got to score early.
Yeah, Nick, so obviously they have C.J. Stroud over there, and they have Nico Collins that's going to be back. Their offense is obviously humming when those two are on the field together. What presence does Micah Parsons bring? Obviously, we saw what he did last week. What can he do this week to affect C.J. Stroud's game?
Get after C.J. quickly. Be that guy. I mean, if you remember, I know they kind of showed it a little bit on one of the podcasts they did. They kind of talked about going up against each other and all this stuff. Here it is. Here's the moment. It was like, well, we'll see next year. And here we are. So I think he's got to be that guy that can get off them and show, help Carl Lawson on the other side. Because Lawson's a pretty good rusher. Yes. Now that he gets some one-on-ones because the attention Mike is going to bring. But just rattle C.J. Stroud a little bit there.
Nick, at the beginning of the week, Coach talked about it will be a competition at the tackle position. So that means if you got a competition at the tackle position, you may have it everywhere on the offensive line. Who are your starting five?
Yeah, a shocker that you asked the offensive line question. Yeah, it always goes back to the offensive line.
Oh, yeah, that's how you
win.
win
He'd be talking
games.
about the election. He'd be like, it's that offensive line. No, you're right, though. And I'm just stalling because I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, who would it be? I guess, I honestly haven't seen what happens if Guyton is coming back, but it starts with Zach Martin, though. You know how those guards are.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting him to have the season he's having. He's going to have to kind of step it up. Same with Steele. Those two guys, we're like, all right, they're solid on the right. What about the left? They have not been solid on the right, and that's kind of where it starts. But BB has been really good.
Yes.
And I think nobody really talks about how impressive it has been what Tyler Smith does. Because Zach Martin told us, I'm a right guard. I don't want to play tackle. He doesn't want to. For the ability that Tyler Smith has, he is super smart. I think he's very underappreciated.
No doubt. And, of course, Tyler Smith was questionable early in the week, and he is active tonight. So that is a first box that is checked for the Cowboys offensive line. Nick Eatman joining us on site here at Cowboys Pregame Live. Good to finally join you on the sidelines this time around.
I love it.
Always
I can
better.
hear. I can hear perfectly.
Barely. We'll catch up with Nick a little bit later on as well. But when we come to this stadium and we talk about the Cowboys' home field advantage, you expect to have some sort of success in the third quarter. They've had zero success in the third quarter. Barry, they're being outscored 82-28 in the third quarter alone. That is dead last in the NFL. As a former player, how much of an impact can you have in the halftime adjustments in order to have a better third quarter like the Cowboys have failed to do?
To me, it's everything. When you go in that half, it's not a long time. You're maybe only in there 10, 12 minutes. But what the coaches are talking to you right there, they're going through every adjustment, what they were having success with, what they were going at your weaknesses with, what you as a team has had success with. So to me, when I look at that score, outscored 82-28, that means the adjustments just aren't happening, or the guys aren't taking what their coaches are saying in the locker room onto the field of play in the second half. You've got to be better at that going into there, or you're going to continue to get blown out in these games, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, what Barry's referring to is usually your coaches come down from the press box, right?
Yep.
They come down from the press box. The coaches that are on the sideline, they all come together. They meet for about the first 5 minutes. After those first 5 minutes, they call everybody up, offense, defense. They come up there and they start writing down their notes, start putting things on the board. These are the adjustments that we need to make. This is what we're seeing. This is what we've done. This is how they're counteracting it. And everybody communicates on one plane. What you're saying, Barry, based upon those stats right there, is something's not being conveyed or something's not being digested. It has to be addressed. Something has to be fixed. Now, whether that comes from the coaches and what they're seeing and how they're communicating, or whether that comes from the players who's just saying, hey, what we've been doing isn't working. We need to make the plays on the field to change the tide.
I tell you what you have to do. Coach Joe Gills, when I played for the Washington Commanders, and they cut me the last cut of the year, he said the first 5 minutes coming out of the halftime is key. If you're on defense, you got to get them off the field. Don't let them get that 5 minutes. If you're on offense, you got to get those 5 minutes and score. Whether it's 3, 6, or whatever, you have to score. And those first 5 minutes is key to what they're going to have to do in the second half.
But there's not really a ton of time to make full-fledged game plan adjustments, right? I mean, it's really more so about what you can do internally. How do you turn your own game around and you make the changes? In terms of a full Mike McCarthy rah-rah speech at halftime that you see in the movies in Hollywood, that doesn't happen, plain and simple. But what else leads to such a discrepancy? Minus 60 in the point differential throughout a third quarter, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we can't put our finger on from this stance, obviously. But again, it's either the coaches and their whether what they're communicating and what changes they're making or not making, or it's the players and their inability to be able to make those changes at halftime. They have to come out either way. The coaches have to coach better, the players have to play better, but they have to change it. Otherwise, you're going to continue to lose ball games.
You can't, when you go out there, you have to be more on the details in the second half. I mean, we saw penalties, drive killers destroy this team time in and time out. So it's not only just the play on the field, it's attention to detail, and this team has got to come better in that during the second halves.
I agree 100%, Barry. If you're not paying attention to what the coach said, because you can't do change your whole game plan. It's just 1 or 2 tweaks they're going to give you offense and defense, and they may have something for you special teams just if you're behind, spice it up. Yeah. But you have to pay attention to details. That is so key.
No doubt, especially especially whenever you're missing some of your top players as well. The Cowboys are missing a number of those guys. Here is the inactive list. As we talked a little bit about this with Nick Eatman, but Hunter Lipke on this list for the first time this season. He was questionable going into this one. Jordan Lewis was not questionable. He is out with a neck injury. Mike Zimmer, Mike McCarthy both talked about it throughout the week. It was going to be hard-pressed to see Jordan Lewis out of the lineup today. A couple other names there, Deron Bland, Damone Clark, not a surprise. Let's start with J. Lou Berry. How big of a loss is this for the Cowboys, who's the secondary who hasn't had a guy outside of Jordan Lewis really be consistent?
No, this loss is monumental. Because to me, Jordan Lewis has been your best guy in the secondary. Whether it's outside corner, slot corner, he's been that guy. When you talk about slot corners in the National Football League, he's one of the better ones. You got to be able to play the run. You got to be able to blitz. You got to be able to cover guys in space. And that's exactly what he's done a great job of doing. So to me, when you lose one of your best defensive players, it's going to hurt your defense overall. And not only what he brings to the field, this is one of the best leaders in the locker room for the Dallas Cowboys. And when he's out there, he kind of leads by example and everybody follows him. So you're not only losing one of the best players, you're losing a leader as well. So to me, this is a monumental loss for the Cowboys.
It's definitely a monumental loss because you're losing one of your key guys, your key contributors, and they're gaining their key contributor back. Yeah. It's not the situation that you want to be walking into, but somebody has to step up. It is what it is, as we like to say. So Jordan Lewis is out. Somebody else, Butler, has to step into that fold. But they're going to try to pick on whoever the youngest guy is, the most inexperienced guy. They have Nico Collins now. They have Tank Dell. Tank Dell's going to take it over the top. Nico Collins is going to be the guy who catches it underneath. Or if you want to play a smaller corner underneath, he's 6'4", 220 pounds. He'll body you up and play post game all day long. So you might have to revert to a little bit more zone, but if you do that, then you're probably playing too high, and now all of a sudden they got a Joe Mixon in the backfield. So you got to figure it out some way.
Is this? I'm gonna ask you a question. Is this a game? We know Zimmer doesn't like to travel his corners. But is this a game where you got to put Diggs on the best, which is Nico Collins out there? Because we know what he brings to the table as far as a guy that can blow the top off your secondary. Is this a game where you travel your corners?
I think you have to. Yeah. I think you have to. I don't think that we'll see it. I truly don't think that that's in Zimmer's scheme. But if you're asking me, I would highly suggest that you follow Nico Collins because the Houston Texans offense without Nico Collins is Pepe Le Pew. It is not great. But with Nico Collins, it changes absolutely everything. These guys are 4-1 with him on the field. C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Joe Mixon in the backfield. Oh, and there's a dude by the name of Dalton Schultz who just can't wait for tonight as well. They have all their dogs.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, guys. We're getting ahead of ourselves. There's a whole lot of time to talk about these weapons. Israel Mukuamu, can he be utilized? I know he's not necessarily a nickel corner, doesn't play in the slot a lot. He has taken snaps there previously. Is this a time where you could utilize him or no?
I wouldn't do it.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't put him in the slot. It's a different world in there. You can use that length on the outside when you got the sidelines as your advantage, but in that slot, there's so much space. You got to be a guy that can change the direction extremely fast, and I don't see Mukuamu being that type of player.
So you're thinking it's one way or the other. It's going to be Josh Butler.
It's going to be Josh Butler. It's going to be Josh Butler and Trayvon Diggs. The thing is about Israel Mukuamu, as you just mentioned, he's too long. His steps are too big to be playing in the slot. You have to be shifty. You got to be able to change with the quickest guy on the field. That's going to be their slot offensive receiver. Israel Mukuamu, the one thing that we expect of him because of his length, this dude's tall. We're 6'3", 6'2", we're all sitting up here tall. He towers over us. He's a long, lanky corner, but he's not a physical corner. So being long and lanky and lacking the physicality puts you at a disadvantage. Now all of a sudden you just have slower feet.
So bad news in the secondary, good news in the inactive list on the offensive line. Both Tyler Guyton and Tyler Smith are active. We know Tyler Smith will be at left guard. We know that. Tyler Guyton, that's a different story, Nate. I mean, having both of those guys in the fold is better than not having the ability to interchange those two. What do you expect out of Guyton and Smith, both kind of playing through some injury?
I just think they got to play technique. You've heard me say this over and over it's getting kind of sickening, you know. These guys got to play technique, not Tyler Smith. He's a dog. He's a beast. But I'm talking about Tyler Guyton. He's tall, he's athletic, he's got it all, but he's got to stay technique sound. He's got to be able to switch the games because they'll do this. They'll do the tackle in stunts. So he has to be sound in what he's doing. We got to give Cooper Rush a chance to get rid of that ball. And if we can do that today, he should be okay.
Isaiah, tell me about the front seven of the Texans that both of these guys are going to have to go up against. They are without Will Anderson Jr. That's a big miss for the Cowboys. Former top 5 overall pick out of Alabama. He's inactive today, but they do have some guys up front that can eat.
Yeah, they have some guys up front. They got some big boys in the middle, and they obviously have Danielle Hunter that's typically plays at the right defensive end position. So that seems like it's going to be a Terrence Steele matchup. So he's ready to put your big boy draws on because he's going to be coming after you. And the thing about Danielle Hunter is, and Nate can speak to this as an offensive lineman, Danielle Hunter plays basketball out there. It's almost like he's doing like an and one out there. So there's not one typical way that he likes to rush the opposing offensive tackle. He makes it up as he goes. Yeah. And one thing is he kind of digests. He kind of just analyzes what you do, and then you'll see in the second quarter, third quarter, he starts changing it up, and that's when he starts doing Freestyle Friday.
Oh man, he's nice. He's got long arms. He's very, very athletic, like you said. But the guy I worry about is Tim Settle, number 98 in the middle. He has 4 sacks. He puts pressure on the quarterback. He hits running backs for losses. And the other guy, I would not disrespect this guy's name because he's a super player. He's number 91.
Fatukasi.
Yeah, whatever that may mean, he will get on top of your running backs if you don't stay on it. So our interior has to play well, and both our tackles have to play exceptional to hold down Danielle Hunter.
And they're going to be blocking for 1, maybe 2 quarterbacks in the backfield. Cooper Rush, the starter, back, even though he was a little banged up after last week's matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. Trey Lance also is available. We've talked about these guys ad nauseum in the past, but I want to ask you the question, plain and simple. Who gives you the best chance to win moving forward?
It's got to be Cooper Rush, in my opinion. I know that Trey Lance brings a little bit to the table when you talk about his athleticism and how he can threaten the defense on that standpoint. But for me, being a former defender, I would rather go against a guy who relied primarily on his legs than with his arm. And with Cooper Rush, you got to worry about him being able to throw the ball in there to CeeDee Lamb, throwing the ball in there to Ferguson and all those guys. With Trey Lance, it's more of, man, if that first option's not there, I'm going to take off. And if I'm in that secondary for the Houston Texans, I know I got guys on the outside that can contain that. So to me, I'd rather go against a Trey Lance and a Cooper Rush. So for the Cowboys, in my opinion, Cooper Rush gives you the best opportunity to win games.
I agree. And let me just remind everybody that Cooper Rush is 5-2 now.
Yeah.
Right? Last week was his second loss. Right?
Different scenario, though. They're very different teams.
Completely different. Absolutely correct. But this team has trust in Cooper Rush. And Nate can speak to this again. As a backup quarterback coming into the game, talking to a bunch of veteran offensive linemen, you need somebody who can command the huddle. I'm all for dual threat quarterback. You know your boy had the wheels. Okay, but the reality is Trey Lance in this preseason had half during his pass attempts, had half the attempts he had in his entire collegiate career. He's inexperienced, and this is not the time to be trying to get him reps. Now, you can sprinkle in packages, you can utilize his abilities, but this is not the time to just hand him the keys and say, hey, drive us home.
Cooper Rush was a little rusty last week, and that's throwing this thing into a turmoil. Offensive line, play better. Give Cooper Rush the time. He can deliver. Receivers, run the correct route. Stay out of each other's zone. Cooper Rush can deliver. Do not play these games. I'm telling you, I don't need a guy that can move 1,000 miles an hour. I need a guy that can deliver the ball in the right hand.
Tell me a little bit about how you can use Trey Lance.
Just like you said, my man said, packages. Yeah. You can drop back, the OP, the
RPO.
Pass run. Yeah, all of that is good, but it don't work if you don't understand what is happening in the speed of the game. Trey Lance has not caught up with the speed of the game. I hate to say that about this young guy. And then he needs reps, but not right now. You're still trying to win games.
Well, and Cooper Rush is still, at least within the locker room, thought as the leader of this football team. Here's what he said earlier in the week in terms of trying to get back on track and find a bit of a rhythm on offense.
Yeah, you see a lot of the same style. Fast, physical defense that flies around. They got dudes at every level of the defense, and that's kind of his imprint. And you see some of the San Fran things as well. And that defense has been around for a while, and it's been always productive.
The circumstances are a little different than 2 years ago when you were filling in. Do you feel the sense of needing to kind of keep guys' spirits up, and if so, how do you do that?
Don't feel the need. I think we have a good enough group, on both sides of the ball that, you're just putting your head down and working. Obviously, winning will make everyone feel better, and I think we all know that, and that's why we're so desperate to get one and why we're focused on that.
How does it affect the starting quarterback if another quarterback comes in for a play or two, just in terms of a package or something like that? Do you have to get your rhythm back when you come back in?
Not necessarily. Whatever package is out there, you're kind of hoping it goes for 50 yards and helps us out. And, it's not a rhythm thing or anything like that.
Cooper Rush last week with really under 150 passing yards at the quarterback position. C.J. Stroud hasn't been playing at a high level as well over the last couple of weeks. Since week 7, 73 quarterback rating. That's actually the worst out of qualified passers since that moment. Here are his season stats. Doesn't look terrible there. You've got the 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Feel pretty good about what C.J. Stroud can do. So in this battle of quarterbacks, Cooper Rush, C.J. Stroud, how does C.J. Stroud hurt you on a defense?
Well, C.J. Stroud, he can make all the throws. But the thing is, right now, he's struggling to have time to make those throws. He's been holding on to the ball because his weapons haven't been there in Nico Collins. But to be honest with you, this offensive line is not good for the Houston Texans. They do not block well, and they're going to give up a lot of pass rush.
Yeah, to me, I agree with you 1,000%. When you talk about a guy like C.J. Stroud, this is a man that is holding the ball way too long, and that's why I feel like Micah Parsons can take over this game. I feel like he can put his stamp on this game by getting after the pass or getting after C.J. Stroud. We saw what he could do last week, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. If the Cowboys want a chance to win this game, Micah Parsons has got to have a legendary performance.
Well, and C.J. Stroud is also the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. 34 sacks this year, only second to Caleb Williams, and that's going into Monday Night Football as still the same. He is still in second place without a whole game under his belt. Nate, this offensive line from Houston's had some troubles, but how are they going to try and help C.J. Stroud?
What they're going to do is just keep Mixon going. Big Mixon, the running back. And if they can get him going, the play-action pass can go. And you say, what can C.J. Stroud do real nice? He's accurate. He's very accurate. So if they get him going, get the running game going, he can hurt us.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And Joe Mixon's going to be the thing. You know, you talk about C.J. Stroud. If anybody knows Micah Parsons, it's C.J. Stroud. And the last thing he wants to do is get hit by him, so he's definitely going to be handing it off to Joe Mixon a lot.
What about Micah Parsons? You talked about him a couple different times throughout. How much of an impact can he have? He had the 2 sacks last week. He had an opportunity to add another one late in that game, just didn't get home. How many times can he get home today, and how much can that impact this Cowboys front seven?
He's going to have to be able to get home multiple times against C.J. Stroud in order for this Dallas Cowboys team to have a chance out there. But what he brings to the table is not only his effect on the game, but how he creates so many more one-on-ones for other guys out there. The Carl Lawsons of the world, the Odighizuwas of the world, they're going to have to go out there and win their one-on-one opportunities because we understand the offensive line, they're going to put all their pressure and all their utilities to stop the young lion.
I'm talking about him in the first 10 plays. He needs to make a play. He needs to sack him. He needs to harass him within the first 10 plays. I'm talking about like 3 or 4 times. Take away, make them think they can't run the ball. Because if you sack him early and we get that lead, all of a sudden you're looking at a different ball game.
And Isaiah earlier in the week on our social promo video said he believes Micah Parsons is going to have 3 sacks tonight. 3 different sacks overall. So if that's the case, then I think you're looking at Micah Parsons as a legitimate impact in this game. The 2 sacks in game 1 back from injury was already impressive enough. The fact that he gets to that point now, I think, is something that's going to be really fun to watch as we continue on throughout the season. So you might hear a little commotion in the background. That's because we've got Cowboys COO Stephen Jones joining us here on set from the sidelines at AT&T Stadium. Stephen, first off, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I got you good.
Great. Awesome night on Friday. You had the stadium excited for Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. A little bit more excitement in my eyes for this one, though. Cowboys-Texans in-state rivalry. How much does this one mean for you and the organization?
Well, the Texans have always been one of those games you want to get. And, you know, we can't ever get enough Cowboy fans, and the best way to get some is beat someone down south that some of our great Texans will support. And this would be a huge win for us. But this is for real. I think that fight the other night, as great as it was, may be a little promoted.
Yeah.
And look, we see Cooper Rush getting his second start of the season. What are you looking forward to seeing from the offense and what Cooper Rush can bring to the table?
Well, I think we saw just what we expected of Cooper the week before when he filled in for Dak, and what he did, when he won either 6-1 or 7-1. But that's what we fully expect, and I know Cooper does too, and I know his teammates do.
Yes,
so
sir.
I really believe, that he'll step up tonight and get the ball, to all the right guys. He'll make quick decisions, which we'll need to tonight. Hats off to what the Texans have done with their defense and their pass rush. So we'll need to be efficient, and we'll need to get the ball out and make some plays.
Talking about making plays, let's go to the defense side of the ball for the Dallas Cowboys. What does it mean for Micah Parsons to be on the field with DeMarvion Overshown? You got the veteran out there going through pass rush, and then you got young Demo out there that's running around.
Well, I think we saw a big part of that last week
Yes.
when they were both out there. Unfortunately, Demo had to leave the game early last week, but there in that first half, I think Hurts was feeling it left and right. And, these two guys have elite speed in terms of getting after guys sideline to sideline after the quarterback. And when you got two of those guys like that on the field at the same time, it can be extra special. And, certainly as we move forward, we expect to get more and more of our guys back. And it's kind of the overall design. But, that's part of the league. Sometimes you got to fight and work through the injury situation. And no one feels sorry for us, but we sure liked a good glimpse of what we saw last week.
Yeah, in kind of speaking to that, at 3-6, of course, there's been some obstacles. There's been some things in the way, but tell me about what your message to the team has been. We've heard your dad talk about it quite a bit, but tell me about your message to coaches, players, staff in order to try and keep the ship moving in the right direction.
Well, we know we had high expectations with this team.
Yeah.
And this team's made up of the right kind of guys in the locker room, the players, made up of the right kind of coaches, made up of the right organization. We are 3-6. We got 8 games left to play. And we can make some noise here. I know a lot of people aren't believing that right now, but we like the way this thing's lining up. Needs to start tonight, though. We don't have a lot of time, but it needs to start.
How satisfying would it be compared to some of the other years that you've been involved in the organization to actually have that turnaround go your way and prove all those people wrong?
Well, it'd be the biggest thing is it'd be great for the people in the building and our fans. That's the biggest thing. We want to do it for our fans, but we also want to do it for everybody in the building that puts all the hard work into putting a team like this together. And we know we've had our challenges, but we're certainly up for it, and we're ready to go compete tonight.
No doubt about it. Stephen Jones joining us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Stephen, thanks so much for taking some time. Good luck tonight, and we can't wait to see how it ends up.
Sounds great, guys. Great being on. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Cowboys COO Stephen Jones. Now, let's talk about some of these weapons on the opposite side of things. We just finished talking about Micah Parsons and his impact on the defensive side of the ball. Getting pressure on C.J. Stroud will be crucial because he has some weapons back, including Nico Collins, who's missed the last few games. He is their deep threat. There you see it in terms of what he brings to the table and those numbers. He is the difference maker for the Texans offense. Isaiah, how big is he going to be tonight?
He's huge. He can do it all receiver. And then a lot of people look at him as you just mentioned, as a deep receiver for this team. Yes, he can do that, but that's not his main thing. That's why they got Tank Dell. Tank Dell's a guy who's supposed to be the Speedy Gonzalez. He just runs and takes it over the top. Nico Collins can do that, but he's also their possession guy. And the reason why, and my boy BC can speak to this, when you're 6'4", 220-plus pounds, you can post up anybody that's in the secondary, and that's exactly how they utilize him.
And that's exactly, like you just said, that's exactly how they want to use him. When you talk about a guy like Nico Collins, he has the size. He can box you up. He has that speed that can stretch, the top of the defense. But even when you're in perfect coverage, and I used to hate going against guys like this, kind of remind me of Megatron back in the day, man. When you going against a guy like that, you can have perfect coverage right on the hip. And all that dude does is just jump over top of you. It just doesn't matter. And that's exactly what Nico Collins brings to the table. He opens up this entire offense, opens up things for guys like Schultz, like Tank Dell out there as well. So, to me, it's going to be a tall task to shut a guy like this down, but you got some cover corners out there on the outside that can get the job done.
It reminds me of, I'm coming from a defensive line standpoint, that reminds me of Reggie White. It just didn't matter what you was going to do. He was eventually going to hip toss you. The only person he could do that to was Big E, but everybody else was a hip toss. Including Big Dude at 330. So, hey, that's what Nico Collins is to everybody.
And we saw a little glimpse there of the impact that Dalton Schultz has had. Former Cowboys tight end, now with Houston playing down I-45. I know there's a little animosity between both parties there.
Tapping on the glass
a little bit going into it. But how much of an impact could he have tonight against this Cowboys defense?
I feel like Houston is definitely going to try to get Dalton Schultz involved early enough.
Is that a thing? Do teams want to try and get their former players involved?
That is definitely a thing. When we played the Cowboys when I was with Jacksonville, they were trying to send me on blitzes every third down. I mean, they're going to try to get you involved, and I can see that when the Texans get here in the red zone or whatever, they're going to try to get Dalton Schultz involved early enough. And when you put linebackers on him, he has enough skill to route him up. He's still got enough skill to do it against safeties as well. So I'm definitely thinking that when you get down to this red zone, Dalton Schultz is going to be a big-time target for C.J. Stroud.
The key word there in Barry's comments was try, all right, a.k.a. valiant effort. All right, I don't believe that Dalton Schultz is going to have an opportunity to get off. They might try to do it, but the thing is, as soon as Micah Parsons gets in that backfield, that offensive coordinator is going to say, hey, Dalton, we need you to sit in here and make sure that he doesn't get blindsided because that boy Micah, number 11, he's hunting.
I think he's good enough to get open. I mean, when a team checks us, it's with the run and it's with tight ends. Every tight end that's came in the last 3 weeks have had success. Dalton Schultz may not be the premier route runner, but he will find them open holes in the seam. So we got to be very careful. So don't be overconfident. Okay.
And a lot of their red zone game does rely on the ground game as well. And you've mentioned Joe Mixon a couple of different times throughout this show. 650-plus rushing yards. His yards per carry is sitting at 4.3. That's actually 2 points less than Rico Dowdle. So even though they've had the production, the efficiency hasn't necessarily been there from Joe Mixon. Why is he still that bell cow that they trust on the offensive side?
Because their offense is well balanced.
Yeah.
Their offense is well balanced when they have Nico Collins out there, because you can't load the box. If Nico Collins and Tank Dell are both on the field simultaneously, you have to play two safeties. Play one safety if you want to, but both of those guys have the ability to run past your cover one or cover three. So you have to go two high safeties. Big Barry and whoever else he wants to bring with him, really back there. But the thing is, when you do two safeties, you have 6 or 7 guys in the box, and that's when Joe Mixon is able to be efficient.
Yeah, he's the heartbeat of this offense when you look at it. I mean, he's the guy, even though, Houston may go a couple 3-and-outs here and there, he's the guy that they give the ball to settle everything back down. And definitely what you just said, with Nico back, there's going to open up a lot of lanes for Joe Mixon to go out there and try to get busy. He got the power to go in between. He has the speed to go on the outside. So this is a guy that you can't overlook. You cannot sleep on him. You got to understand where number 28 is at all times.
Coach Ryans wants to keep a ball control offense, and that's who Joe Mixon is. They average 32 minutes time of possession. This is who they run this offense through. I know who the quarterback is. We know who the wide receivers is, but everything goes through Mixon.
Let's talk about the Cowboys' run game, because we've seen life from the Cowboys' run game, and most of it has to deal with Rico Dowdle running the rock efficiently. How do you get him going today, Barry, in order to keep that balanced attack that Dallas has been lacking?
You have to keep going at it. Even though he may only go in there and get you 2 yards or 3 yards in a cloud of dust, you've got to make sure you hand the ball and do not give up on the run game. That's what defenses respect. Okay, you guys are going to run the ball here and there. All right, we can't just pin our ears back and get after Dak Prescott. You got to have some balance going out there. So even if Rico is not destroying it as far as the numbers are concerned, you got to make sure that defense respects it. You got to be able to hand the football off to him.
And give him some help in the form of a change of pace back. Deuce Vaughn was not on the inactive list last time I checked. So the thing is, Deuce Vaughn is quicker and more explosive than any of the backs in that backfield. What happens is if you put all the same type of backs in the backfield, these guys are all going to get used to the pace. So all of a sudden you put a Deuce in there as a splash of speed and quickness, then all of a sudden the defense starts getting changed up. They don't know what pace and what speed you're at. So they need to be able to do that and get those guys mixed in there.
And they're going to have to do so with Rico Dowdle and a circle drawn around him as well. Let's hear from Rico earlier in the week on what he has in store for this Texans defense.
It definitely means a lot coming from where I come from, my situation I've been in, undrafted to now being the starting running back for America's team. Definitely I take great pride in that. But, and definitely with the, comfortability from coach and stuff like that, having faith in me to go out there and get the job done. But
just how good does it feel? Because like you kind of alluded to just now, you went through the injury stuff early in your career and, fighting back from that, and then you had another setback, fight back from that, just to get from that point to this point and have such a bright future looking forward. Like, how does it feel to be at this point?
Definitely, I definitely say it feel good. It don't feel good with the record right now, honestly, but yeah, it definitely feels good from getting, like you said, going through all that adversity, to staying the course, knowing my goals and stuff that I had at hand, and wanting to get to this role, and just kept pushing it. Like you said, all the work and stuff that I did in the off season and everything, training camp, it finally paid off. Now I'm in this situation, so it definitely feels good for sure.
So there you hear from Rico Dowdle. Now we get to hear from Nicole Hutchison joining the crew for the first time here on the sideline. And Nicole, you had the opportunity to catch up with a couple of more of these skills positions throughout the week. And really, there's a lot of them. There's a magnifying glass on their production going into this. How do they feel like they can turn things around?
Well, when you talk about the production, well, lack thereof this year, for the receivers specifically, you look at the numbers and it says that they're a top 5 passing offense for the Cowboys, but it's like a Mike McCarthy says all the time, the stat sheet does not tell the full story. So I took it upon myself to let the wide receivers tell their story. Through the first 10 weeks of the season, Dak Prescott's thrown 8 interceptions, one less than his total in 2023. But looking at the bigger picture, the interceptions go beyond the errors of the quarterback. The Cowboys have had to play catch-up in almost all of their games, forcing bad passes into ugly situations like when he threw 2 in San Francisco.
But I'm sure you can't be having the turnovers. As I said, you just got to eat that one, take that sack. And then the second one was as bonehead of an interception as I feel like I've had, trying to make a play.
But let's not forget it takes 2 to tango. A quarterback needs his wide receiver to create space. And if not, as seen much this season, Prescott's tight windows rate has increased.
I just got to step up, quite honestly. And with that, that's been my motto since coming back. But with that, I just keeping him comfortable back there, making sure I'm available on every route given.
Here's the numbers. The Cowboys receivers have had the second fewest average yards of separation at time of pass arrival in the NFL this season. Something Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman scouted weeks ago, not shying away from his critiques on the receiver's struggles. Now fast back forward to week 10 and insert Cooper Rush against the Eagles. The receiver's separation struggles continue, a part of why Rush threw for 45 yards, but it's all still a work in progress.
Working on top end of the routes, working on being physical at the top of routes, and then obviously working on, I think everybody says separation. You're not going to be wide open every play, so just being able to have strong hands, create, contested catches and come down with them is something that, is a vital part of being a wide receiver as well, along with creating separation. And so putting all those things to work, in practice, and, it'll pay off in the game.
Without Brandon Cooks' speed on the field, his presence has been missed. But insert Jonathan Mingo, someone Mike McCarthy feels he can bring the ability to shake a few defenders.
I think he's everything we thought he was. Just work ethic has come right in. He's picking it up quickly. I've been impressed with that. The inside-out flexibility, what we thought, he was physically, that's definitely there. So he's shown some vertical juice.
And it'll be tested. The Texans' secondary is the 3rd best in yards of separation allowed, but it's a test the Cowboys receivers are looking to pass.
I'm part of it, so I will take full credibility, and that's also my room. So with that being said, it's still in the confidence. It's still in that they're the player that they think they are. So this weekend, just having them prepare the right way, hard, fast, run your route as if we in a game, and you should see how that turns out.
Those weapons will look to get involved today against the Cowboys, one of which, CeeDee Lamb, was questionable going into the matchup. He is active and expected to play. We saw him running routes early. He looked like he was moving well. With CeeDee Lamb in the fold, who else has to step up around him?
It's got to be Jake Ferguson. He's got to be that second option to be able to take advantage of it, because you're going to have to get the ball out of Cooper Rush's hands extremely fast, and I believe that's where Jake Ferguson can do most of his damage.
I need Jalen Tolbert to step it up, and I'm not even talking about his effectiveness. I need his effort to step up. I think he's a very capable receiver. He just has to show up every single play.
Rico Dowdle plus O-line equals a successful night. Bottom line, yeah. Rico Dowdle offensive line.
All those weapons all making their way. Some sort of impact needed outside of CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee included. He's going to be under a microscope as well, but all of it has to come together tonight for the Cowboys. All right, it's time now for some Call Your Shot, gentlemen. It has not been good for us lately. We did have some wins last week. Of course, you have to make a bold prediction going into the game, and we can only bet with the amount of points that we have in our bank. Of course, the Cowboys have not helped us out a whole lot throughout the year. Barry Church, you are leading the way whenever it comes to the Call Your Shot. Just kidding.
Oh, no.
I don't know why I keep going down. It says in the rules we can't go down the negative.
You're down there, buddy.
At any point, it ends at 0.
Wow, no.
Nate, you're leading the way, so we'll let Barry start things off. Go for it.
To me, it's got to be about the Cowboys defense. Micah Parsons has got to be able to take over this game. That's why I believe the Cowboys defense will have 3+ sacks. All right, this afternoon against C.J. Stroud, they're going to need to if they want to shut down this Houston attack.
I agree. It has to be on defense. I'm going to go with Micah Parsons. He's going to get multiple sacks on his podcast pro, a.k.a. C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud. He's going to get back after him, right?
Yep.
The way we win this is with CeeDee Lamb, baby. He's still the salt and pepper of this thing, man. 10 targets, 1 point. I will win.
So 10 targets for CeeDee Lamb? Yeah. That's all it is?
Yeah,
this is getting a little...
You're
leading the way.
How many did he get last week?
Yeah. How many has he gotten on average throughout his career?
This is crazy. We talking about with that.
We talking about with that. You have one game You have one game. Mike, call your shot this week. Cowboys are going to do something they haven't done in a while, and that's score 20 points. They're going to put 20 points on the board today against the Houston Texans. That's how they're going to get it done. It's not nearly as easy as 10 targets has been for CeeDee Lamb. Exactly. All right, keys to the game. Nate, I'll let you start it off. Keys to the game for the Cowboys to get a win.
It will not change, Kyle. Rico Dowdle plus the offensive line. Make that your keys.
Yeah, I think that this defense needs to keep the offense of the Houston Texans under 75 yards rushing.
Ooh. Offensively, Cowboys have got to take care of the football. I mean, you cannot give this Houston team a short field. They've got to be able to take care of the football this afternoon.
Got to have some fun. Keys to the game, of course, the Cowboys and the Texans on ESPN Monday Night Football. We're getting kicked off the field a little bit early today. They said they're bringing too much heat in the end zone. We've got to clear the field for this Monday Night Football matchup. That does it for us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Osa Odighizuwa getting the guys fired up to face their in-state rival. It's the 7th all-time meeting between the Cowboys and the Texans. Houston looking for their first ever win on the road against the DFW-owned Dallas Cowboys. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, Nicole Hutchison, Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We will see you after the game. Cowboys-Texans on ESPN.